And a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Sandy Elson, and on behalf of the travel professional community and HomeBasedTravelAgent.com, I welcome all of you to today's webinar. We really have a very exciting webinar for you today. Geoff Millar is our guest speaker. Geoff's topic is how to really qualify and educate potential clients made easy. And that's certainly something that we can all benefit from. Geoff is the co-owner, along with his wife Sharon, of Ultimate All-Inclusive Travel. Geoff has been involved in sales for the past 28 years as a salesperson, sales manager, and vice president of sales for a few Fortune 500 companies like Boeing. Geoff and Sharon started Ultimate All-Inclusive Travel in 2003 and together have built a very successful travel business. And Geoff will be telling you a little bit more about that as well. Before we get started, please remember that we welcome your questions. You can type in your questions at any time in the question area you see on the right-hand panel of your screen. At the end of Geoff's presentation, we'll get to as many questions as we can. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Geoff so he can get started. I'll be back a little bit later to ask Geoff your questions. Welcome, Geoff.
Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate it, and I'm glad I'm here, and hello to everybody. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover qualifying and educating potential clients. And as you see on the screen, I always put how I politely fire at least 5 potential clients a day. So let's get started because we've got a lot of work to cover and a lot of good information in a very short period of time. First slide is basically who we are, where we're located, and I think the only thing to point out on here is we do specialize. We specialize in all-inclusive resorts, and we specialize in Hawaii. That's it. That's all we sell, and that's all we specialize in, and 98% of our sales come from our specialty. Oop, I went the wrong way. Okay, the points we're going to cover in this is everything from answering the phone all the way through setting up the next step and everything in between. The 2 areas that I really want to focus on, even though every one of these is very important, is the educating a potential client on your business and qualifying the client. Because those are the 2 areas that I think we can use to really cut down on the amount of work we do, the amount of time we spend, the amount of research we have to do, and actually increase our close ratio, which is very important because the main thing is not gathering prospects or suspects, but actually closing sales and gaining clients. What we're going to do then is educate the client on the product they're using and look for and what they're looking for based on the qualification steps. So we'll go to the next one. Next one, well, I put this in, this is what is called a sales pipeline in Salesforce. And what you have, the way they show it, the green balls on top are both, there's 2 terms used in sales. There's prospects and there's suspects. Suspects are really unqualified prospects. They show both of them in there. What we're going to focus on is what goes into this pipeline. And what we're going to try to do is eliminate as many of the suspects before they go into the pipeline through qualification and education. And so what goes into the pipeline are really qualified prospects. And by doing that, what we're going to do is focus your efforts on working on real opportunities and therefore increasing your close rate. That's the name of the game, is getting more of the sales coming out the bottom of this pipeline. And the way to do that is get rid of everything except for qualified prospects. You'll be amazed at how your close rate increases and also the amount of work that you have to do, the amount of research that you have to do if you properly qualify a client. First step in this is answering the phone, and people say, well, how is that important? Well, when you answer the phone or you first meet a client in a meeting, what that's going to do is set the tone of the conversation and set the tone for the whole rest of the sales. You've heard the term first impressions. This is what you're doing, is you're setting that first impression with that potential client. And it's the first step in building their confidence in you and your business. And it's also the first step in the other thing that we really need to do is develop a relationship, a mental relationship with that client. And without those things, basically, if you don't develop that relationship, that's where you're not going to get any loyalty. Therefore, you're probably not going to make the sale, and you're not going to get any repeat business or referrals. So you really focus on building up their confidence in you, and you focus on setting that relationship with that client. When you answer the phone, you should be pleasant, confident, polite, and businesslike. Pleasant, what I mean by that is how many times have we called somebody and the way they answer the phone makes it sound like we're bothering them or we're interrupting them, and we probably shouldn't be talking to them. You want the phone to ring, so what you want to do is be pleasant with that person. Have a smile on your face. That does show when you're talking to people. If you're frowning or in a bad mood, I tell people it's almost like acting. You have to be able to turn on that switch regardless of what issues, problems you're dealing with the day, and you have to be pleasant. Confident is the other thing. People want to do business that are confident in what they're doing. So be confident in what you're doing. Polite, same thing. They're going to have clients that are going to say things you don't agree with, you don't like, but be polite because you don't want to burn that bridge going up because you may meet that same people coming down. The other thing is businesslike, and what I mean by businesslike is how many times have you gotten a call from somebody, you've never met this person in their life, yet they start acting like you're their best friend and you're their buddy, and there's a fine line between being businesslike and professional and carrying it over to being too personal with a client. And it should be an enjoyable experience. I mean, if you look at it, we're not selling cemetery plots, we're selling travel. Again, smile. And then what we're going to do once you answer that phone with the client, we're going to transition to the next step. The next step is what I call the opening conversation. And what you want to do is ask the potential client how you may help them. We have a rule here in our office. Everybody answers the phone. For instance, if I answer the phone, I answer it, "Hi, this is Geoff Millar with Ultimate All-Inclusive Travel. How may I assist you today?" Once they start talking, do not interrupt. Shut up and listen. And a little sales trick is in any sales call, if you are talking more than 30% of the time, you're talking too much. Because you can never learn information from a potential client by talking. You can only learn that information by listening. So listen to what they have to say. Once they finish, now you can repeat that back to them. That does two things. First of all, it tells the client, and again, it's building that relationship. It tells the client that you heard what they said. And that's impressive with people as well. They really listen to me. It also does another thing, and it's a little sales trick, is it can buy you some time to think about how you're going to start to answer what they just told you. So those are the two reasons that you want to repeat back what you heard to the client. Start questioning now that client to better understand what they're looking for. And in questioning, you can use open-ended and closed-ended questions. For example, an open-ended question would be, "Tell me about your last vacation." That is a question where they can expound on that question. A closed-ended question would be something like, "Are you a pool person?" And that's a question that can be answered yes or no. And you can mix those questions to really, what you're trying to do here is really understand what the client's looking for. The next point, take notes. And I say this, and I fall into that trap. I sometimes think, well, I'll remember what they said. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And then you hang up and you get involved in something else and you come back to it and you think, "God, I really don't remember what they said." So take notes when the client is speaking, what they want. And then that you can refer to those notes during the conversation that you have. As far as the questions you're going to ask, we're going to get into that in the next few slides. But this is the first opportunity to end that call. And what I mean by that is if somebody calls and they ask for a product that you cannot provide, you probably want to end that call. Like, we don't do airline tickets. So if somebody calls us and wants an airline ticket, we basically end the call at this point. But what we do is we try to help them find where they can go to get an airline ticket, because you never know when that potential client is going to be in the market for, in our case, an all-inclusive vacation or a vacation to Hawaii. So again, you don't want to burn your bridges with this potential client, even though they're asking for something that you can't fulfill. And again, now you're going to transfer to the next step. And if you look at this, we've had the answering the phone, the initial meeting, we've had the opening conversation, and we haven't talked about travel at all. So we're going to go to the next step. And the reason that we haven't talked about travel is going to become apparent in this step. And that's educating the client about you and your business. And I say that because the first point, potential clients can buy travel from multiple sources. Before this webinar, I went on and I put in Yahoo the search term travel agents. It brought up 21,500,000 websites where people can go buy travel. So what that tells us is travel is not the product we sell. The product we sell is ourselves and our business. And if you don't take away anything from this, take that away, is that you've got to sell yourself and your business, because you are the only unique product that you're selling to your client. What we do is we sell ourselves and we provide and facilitate travel for our clients, but we do not sell travel because that's not a unique product. We sell ourselves. And what you're going to sell is, why should they buy from you versus the 21 million other places that can go buy travel? What you want to use here is, I call it your expanded elevator speech. And for those that don't know what an elevator speech is if you got on the 20th floor of a hotel and somebody else got on the elevator and asked you what you did, you would have from the 20th floor to the lobby to be able to explain to them who you are, what you do, and why they should buy from you. Well, you should have an elevator speech for those situations where you're out in public. You should also have an expanded elevator speech when you're sitting down with a client or talking to a client on the phone that you're going to use in these instances. The two things that you really want to focus on is experience and knowledge, because again, those are the unique things that you have to provide that client, your experience and your knowledge. Stress knowledge of the product they're looking for. And this is where specialization helps. And for those that know me, I am a big, big, big proponent of specialization. I tell people, sell whatever you want, but become an expert in something. Be the go-to person for some aspect of travel. So that's what you really want to stress, is your knowledge, your product knowledge, your experience in the travel industry, your experience of booking travel with other clients. Stress the service you're going to provide, because one of the things that everybody tells a client is, we provide top service. Well, guess what? So do those 21 million other websites tell their clients they provide top service. What you want to do is take that a step farther, and you want to now use examples or demonstrate how you're going to provide service to them, what service you're going to provide to them. That's what's going to make you unique, is not that you provide top service, because everybody says they provide them. But use an example. For instance, if you had somebody that had an airline problem, how did you fix that? You had somebody that had a problem at a resort. I'm big on using examples. How did you fix that? So the client understands that not only do you provide top service, but here's the service they're going to provide me. And again, use real-life stories to demonstrate those experiences. People love the real-life stories. What you're doing is you're furthering that relationship, and you're also cementing your credibility when you do that. So sell yourself and your agency. That's the key thing before you even open your mouth about travel. Another no-no in sales is, do not speak negatively about the competition. That's a no-no in sales. What you want to do is understand the competition. You want to understand their weak points and sell your strengths against those weak points. For instance, we only require a down payment if you're going on vacation and you're 45 days out or more. The online companies don't. So don't say the online companies don't have a down payment. Just say, we provide a down payment, and you don't have to pay the final payment until 45 days before you travel. you've sold a strength that is a weakness for the competition. And that's a way of basically combating the competition without actually knocking the competition. And I'll give you a real life example of where that backfired is in my days with Boeing. We went on a sales call and we were talking, and I was with the salesman, and the salesman started talking badly about the competition. Well, the person who was talking badly about the competition, his brother-in-law happened to work for the competition. So those are things that can come back and bite you in the rear end. So don't, you may be bad-mouthing Delta Airlines, and one of the person you're talking to, one of their relatives works for Delta Airlines. So don't bad-mouth the competition. Sell against the competition's weak points. Now, if you charge fees at the end of selling yourself and educating the client about your business, this is where you want to introduce the fees. And you could say something like, I am going to provide you A, I'm going to provide you B, I'm going to provide you C, I'm going to provide you this kind of service when you're flying, when you're at the resort, when you're home, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all these things for you and list those things, and I'm going to do it for only $250. And to make it even more palatable is what I'm going to do is if you buy it from me, I'm going to apply that to your trip. So what you're doing is you're introducing fees after you've sold yourself. If you introduce them before you sold yourself, the client has no idea what they're going to get for those fees. So there's a proper time to introduce fees. And the key about introducing fees is be confident when you do it. Don't be timid. Don't apologize for doing it. Be very confident about doing it. And really kind of stress that the customer is going to get their money's worth by paying this fee, because here is everything you're going to provide for them for that. So that is when you want to charge or introduce the fees. Now we're going to get into the questions of actually qualifying a potential client. I put that on top. It's not the question you ask, but how you ask it. And we'll refer to that in a minute. But what you're doing here is you want to determine through these questions if they're a real potential client or qualified client, or if they're a prospect, not a suspect. And what you're also doing is you are starting, for instance, if somebody says, I want to go to an all-inclusive resort in the Caribbean, there's probably 500 resorts at the top. Through this questioning, you're narrowing down the choices till you get to the end of the questioning. And I can tell you with our experience here, by the time we get to the end of the question, we already know what 3 or 4 resorts we're going to recommend to that client simply because they fit the criteria of the answers that we got when we asked these questions. And it requires answers to questions that may appear to be hard to ask. For instance, budget is a big thing. You can ask them, what is your budget? Or you can say, how much money do you not want to exceed on this vacation? You're asking the same question, you're just asking it in a way that's more palatable than just coming out and asking them what their budget is. Here's the key information. Now, this by no means is not all the information you can ask a client, but this is the information that we feel is critical to get before you actually work with that client on a particular opportunity. And we'll go through the questions and kind of give you an idea of why you're asking those questions. Again, you're establishing your credibility, you're establishing your experience, and you're narrowing down the product line that the products that you're going to recommend to this client, which in turn is going to create less work, less research work, and it's going to save you money by doing that and afford you time to concentrate on the real opportunities. So what type of vacation experience are you looking for? That's purely because now, as you know, every cruise line, every resort caters to a different type of clientele based on what they're looking for. This is going to help you narrow down those 500 resorts down to a manageable number of resorts because they're the ones that provide that experience they're looking for. Where have they vacationed in the past? That's going to give you an idea of the quality of resort that they go to. They may say, we want 5-star resorts. You say, okay, where did you take your last 3 vacations? And their last 3 vacations, they took at a Holiday Inn. Well, what that's going to show you is that their concept of 5-star and your concept of 5-star may not be the same. So that's good information to have. What did they like and dislike about it? Again, narrowing down which resorts are going to fit what they're looking for. When did they last vacation? The big point this is going to do is if they say that they went on vacation 10 years ago, you know right away that one of the expectations you're going to have to set is a budgetary expectation, because what they paid 10 years ago isn't going to be close to what they have to pay to go on vacation now. So I think it's critical to ask that, because a big part of your job is going to be setting expectations with these clients. Where do they want to go? If they know where they want to go, that's great. A lot of times we don't know where they want to go. If they know where they want to go, it's going to make your job easier, because it's going to narrow it down even further. If they don't know, that's fine, because you're asking these other questions that are going to do the same thing. The next one, is there a place they don't want to go? To me, that's just as important, because you don't want to say, I want this resort, and they don't know where they want to go. And, for instance, you give them Mexico, and they say, well, we didn't want to go to Mexico. Ask them where they don't want to go. Another piece of information that's going to help you narrow everything down. When do they want to go? That's going to have an effect on the price when they want to go. How many nights do they want to stay? Again, it's going to have an effect on the price. Again, asking the budget. And what we say here is, what amount of money do you not want to exceed on your vacation? It just sounds a lot nicer than coming out and saying, what's your budget for this? And actually, we have a rule in this office. We will not work with somebody unless they give us a budget. Because I don't care if they're multimillionaires or if there's somebody that's in college, they have a budget, and they don't want to exceed a certain dollar amount. Are there going to be any other people involved in the decision? How many times have we been working with the husband or the wife, and we go along and they love everything we're doing, they think it's great, and then you get up in the morning and you open that email and it says, oh, I'm so sorry, I really liked what you were doing, but my husband went out and bought our vacation last night and I didn't even know about it. So find out who is going to be involved in the decision. We've even done the point where we've set up conference calls with those people and talked to both people at the same time. I can tell you, in our experience, most of the time you do the planning with the wife and the husband pays the bills, and we've had times where the husband is called to pay the bill and has no clue of where they're even going. But just make sure that you are covering your bases and talking to all the decision makers. When do they plan on making a decision and purchasing? You could do that, and somebody could say, well, we're not going to have the money for 3 months. Doesn't mean that you want to throw them in the garbage or get away with this person, but what you need to do is educate them on the fact that if I give you a price today, it's going to change within 3 months. What we can do is give you a price today so you get an idea, and then we'll keep it in our tickle file, and 3 months from now, then we'll start looking for prices in earnest. But get that information, because you don't want to give them a price today, and you may not hear from them simply because they don't have the money for 3 months, or they don't want to make a decision for 3 months. Now, you can try to push them up. Here's a point where you can try to sell them on it's better for you to book early than it is later, but you wouldn't be able to do that or even get to that point if you didn't know when they were going to make a decision. Are they working with anybody else? And I will tell you that probably the next 2 points, are they working with anybody else and do they already have prices? Between those two, probably 98% of the people will fit in that category. And that's just a fact of life. It's neither positive or negative. It's just a fact of life, but it's information you need to know. And if they are working with somebody else, you can follow up with, who are you working with? Have you got any prices? What prices did you get? Where did you get those prices? When did you get those prices? Because they could have gotten those prices 2 months ago, and they mean absolutely nothing now. But those are critical questions that you need to ask. What factors are going to influence their decision on who they book with? Basically, you're asking is, how are you going to make the decision who you're going to book with? And the problem is getting back to developing a relationship and establishing credibility. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is this question will drive everything to price. The answer will be, we're going to go with the lowest price. Now, be careful, because a lot of times what they really mean, and you have to question them about this, is I want to find the best value for our money, and then I want the lowest price for the best value, which is fine. I mean, that's what everybody would want. So don't just assume when they say lowest price, they mean that. If they do mean that, again, that may be somebody you might not want to work with. But if what they really mean is we want to find the best value for our money, the best resort where you get the biggest bang for our buck, and then we want to go find the lowest price for that resort, that's fine. I mean, that's something that we would do. Determine, the other thing is, once you've got this information, what you want to do is determine if any of the answers to the questions are unreasonable. And what I mean by that is their budget too low? Is the time of year they want to go ridiculous for their budget? Is where they want to go, is it hard to get to? For instance, we had a call from somebody from Miami that wanted to spend 3 nights in Hawaii. Well, what I did is honestly talk her out of going to Hawaii, because you don't want to go to Hawaii for 3 nights. So determine if they're unreasonable. Now what you want to do is ask if they're flexible on those unreasonable items. Can you increase your budget? Your budget is great for a 5-star resort if you want to go 5 nights. Can you lower the number of nights from 7 to 5 nights and we can get you in a 5-star resort? Or do you want to stick with 7 nights and risk not getting anything or being booked at a lower level resort? So make certain that they're flexible on things. Offer them options. Don't just stick with exactly what they ask for. And it goes back to the product knowledge too, is we have found that about 60% of the people book something other than what they ask for, simply because when we go through the qualifying process, what we find out, the resort they ask for doesn't fit what they're looking for in a vacation. So about 60% go someplace other than what they ask for. At this point, again, it's another decision if you want to continue with this potential client. If they have an unrealistic budget and they're not flexible, this may be when you want to cut that person loose and say, look, if you're not flexible and can't reduce it or go another time of the year, there's probably nothing I can do for you. But if you do decide to be flexible on these, or you're able to increase your budget, we'd love to work with you. So you can cut that person loose, but again, be nice to that, because you never know when that person may come back and become a client. If you want to continue with that client, here's where you would prioritize in your mind. For instance, you're talking to somebody and they have a $50,000 budget and they want to make a decision next week. That probably would go to the top of the priority list. If you had somebody that had an iffy budget and they really don't know when they can pay for it, for whatever reason, you may choose to work with them, but it would go lower on your priority list. Also, now is a good time to use a trial close. What a trial close is basically asking for the order, but knowing that you probably are not going to get a yes answer on asking for the order. A good trial close is the if I will you trial close. If I can find a vacation that suits everything you're looking for, it's for the dates you want to go, the number of nights you want to go, it's within your budget, are you prepared to purchase this vacation? And probably 9 out of 10 times they're going to say no, they aren't, because they have questions. And that's exactly why you do a trial close, to draw out those questions, those objections. Objections are a positive thing, not a negative thing. Objections basically now give you more information about that client that you can go back to and answer those objections. And I will tell you, 90% of all objections stem from miscommunication or misunderstanding. But it gives you a chance to draw those out with trial closes and answer those objections that people have. This is where knowing your product line really helps, is going through this process. So what you've done, by the time you get to this point in the process, if you know your product line, you probably, if we do it, we already have the 3 or 4 resorts we're going to recommend to them. So it cuts down. I don't have to go do research. I don't know the last time I've had to go do research on a resort. The only thing we have to go research is what is the best price for them for that. So if you know a product that well, by the time you get to this, we're in one conversation, by the time you get to this point, you should already have it narrowed down to 3 or 4 choices that you're going to send to your client. Now you transition into product qualifying. Now what do I mean by that? Is we're basically going to start educating the client on products. And you use this to further sell the client on your product knowledge and your experience. I do a lot of times, and I'm big on doing this, is I ask them, are you in front of your computer right now? Okay, let's go to this website of this resort, because based on the questions that you answered and all the answers that we gathered in the previous steps, I think this is what you're looking for, but I want to verify that with you. And you go through the resort's website, you may look at the photographs and this, and you say, okay, am I on the right track? Is this what you're looking for? And 9 out of 10 times they'll say yeah or yes, but we really wanted this and this. So now you can go back and adjust. But basically you're educating them on the resort. And I'll even go on the one that they asked for if it doesn't fit, and I'll have them go on that website and show them why it doesn't fit. It's probably not the best one for what they're looking for. The next thing you want to do is explain the research step. Whether you're doing pricing, whether you're doing product research, you explain that you're going to research the price, you're going to research the availability. If you have to, you're going to go research the resorts. And I'm going to get you a quote. Today's Thursday. I'm going to get you a quote by tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to give you the weekend to look at it. And can we set a time up on Monday that we can get back together and go over what I sent you and answer any questions you have? And oh, by the way, after I send you the quote, I'm going to call you right away to make sure you receive that quote, because so many emails go to people's spam. So you explain the research step. Then you explain the booking step. Once we've narrowed it down to a resort, all we require are your passport names, dates of birth. We can go in and hold everything for 24 hours. We will send that to you for your verification that we have the names right, we have the resort right, the flights right, the dates right. Once that's done, all you have to do is pay us a down payment. That down payment gets applied to the package. Your final is due 45 days before travel. Once we do that, within 2 days, we'll have your documents. We actually print those documents out, highlight all the pertinent information, and we mail those to you. Now, once you've gotten to this point, set the next step and time frame. Never leave a meeting or a phone call without setting the next step for a meeting or a follow-up phone call. So what you want to do is really set up these steps ahead of time and get agreement from the client. Anytime you go over this information, always get agreement from the client. So they can't go back and say, oh, well, I must have misunderstood you, or I didn't know you said that. Get agreement from the client. And that's a good, and it has nothing to do with qualifying, it has to do with closing, is a lot of good closers will start asking questions of the client that they answer yes to. Yes, 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 yes. So when they ask for the order, the natural thing in that client's mind is the word yes. It's just a little trick that some salespeople use, but always get agreement when you discuss something with the client. And if you go through these steps, these process now, and you still want to work with that client, you've now got a qualified prospect that can go in that pipeline. And what you're going to see is your research time is going to be cut. What you're also going to see is your close rate is going to go up. And for God's sake, specialize, become an expert in something. What do you want to do after this call is, first of all, recap each qualification and education step you did with the client, and get agreement on all those steps. Get agreement on the points that were covered, and again, set the appointment for the next step. Never leave an appointment without setting the appointment for the next step. What you should do after the call or appointment is review your notes. And I actually say this because there are times where I've made notes and I go back 2 days later to work on it, and I look at it and I say, what the hell did I write on there? I can't even read my own writing. So review your notes, make sure they're legible, make sure they make sense, so that when you now follow up with those notes to start and work on with this client, they actually do make sense. Prioritize the opportunity, and that's the one, if it's a big opportunity that looks like it's going to close right away, it would go to the top of your priority list. Everything else would fall somewhere under that. And you always work from the top of your priority list down. Here's something that you can do that probably not very many people do, is send a thank you email thanking them for the opportunity to work with them. Just like you would on a resume. If you go for an interview, you send a resume, you go for an interview, when you get back, you're usually going to send a handwritten note or you're going to send an email thanking them for the opportunity for the interview. Do the same thing with sending them an email with thanking them for the opportunity to work with them. And look at qualifying. The way is if anybody's ever worked in a human relations department, is they have a job opening and they get 50 resumes. What they do the first time they go through those resumes is they go through them looking for the ones that they can throw away. They don't go through them the first time looking for the qualified ones. Which ones can we get rid of? You're kind of doing the same thing in qualifying. You're really, through the qualification process, coming up with a list of these people I really don't want to work with or can't work with, and here are the people that are qualified people. I can work with them. They have a good budget. They have good dates. They know what they're talking about. I've really made a connection with these people. I think I've established a relationship with these people. So those are the ones that now go into your pipeline to work. And you're going to eliminate a lot of those ones that we saw in that pipeline before they get in there, but you're going to have more time to work on the qualified ones, and it's going to increase your close rate by doing that. Last slide are just some general sales tips. We're going to talk about close rate. Close ratio is nothing more than out of how many suspects and prospects do I have, how many did I close? How many of those did I close? The national close rate for all industries, not just travel, for all industries is 12%, which is saying out of every 100 leads I get, I'm going to close 12 of those. What that also points out is that if you're in sales, as we are, sales is a numbers game. That's really all it is. It's a numbers game. You can use qualification to increase your success with those numbers, but it's really a numbers game is all it is. A good close ratio for travel sales is 25 to 30%, and if you get really good at qualifying a client, you could even increase that close ratio. And you're not going to get, even qualified leads, you're not going to get every one. You may have somebody that they love what you do, they love what you're doing, they love everything you're presenting to them, and they have a death in the family and they can't go. Or something happens. I mean, we've had them where we've done a destination wedding and the bride and the groom break up before the wedding. So you're not going to close every one of them, but you can. It's kind of like playing blackjack. If you know what you're doing in blackjack, you can put the odds in your favor. You're doing the same thing with qualifying a client. But the keys are basically demonstrate your credibility, your knowledge, your expertise, and develop a relationship, a mental relationship, whether it's over the phone or in person. Develop that relationship. And I tell our people what I want to do, even the ones they lose, if they go somewhere else and book, what I want them to do, I want that client to feel guilty that they went somewhere else and booked. That's the minimum. And there is a story. We've got some time. I'll tell you one more story on that. Is one of our sales reps was working with a lady. She liked everything that she sent her. Everything was great. They were talking on the phone, and she said, I have a neighbor that's a travel agent, and I was working with them, and her price is a little lower than yours. Rather than get upset, the sales rep said, okay, I can understand that, but if you ever plan a trip again, please call me. I'd love to work with you. I think we can do a good job for you. The resort that I recommended, you're going to have a fabulous time there. It's a great resort. 20 minutes after she hung up, the lady called back and said, I started working with the other travel agent, and she was kind of nasty about it. And the only thing I could think of the whole time was I really want to do business with the other person I was working with. She called up, and the travel agent got the business. So again, don't discount opportunities because they go somewhere, and you're not going to win every opportunity, but through proper qualification and educating clients about your business, you can put the odds in your favor. Some of the other things that these are things: extended elevator speech, pleasant, friendly, confidence. I have a lot of people that say, what is the one trait that you think good salespeople have. And I tell them right off the bat, it's confidence. They're confident in what they're doing. They're confident in their knowledge. They're confident in their experience. And they're confident in the way that they handle. But there's a process for sales. And if you follow that process and those steps, you are going to put the odds in your favor, and you're going to be successful more than you're going to be unsuccessful. Product knowledge, again, you can't beat product knowledge. Organized, this industry, and I know many of you know this, you have to be organized and you have to be very detailed oriented, especially if you're doing groups. Get agreement on everything you talk to them. Always set the next appointment before leaving the previous appointment. Keep time schedules agreed upon. Why is that important? Because if I'm a travel agent and I can't even keep a time schedule that I committed to somebody, their thought is going to be, well, how can I trust my travel with this person if they can't even do that? Some of the other things in sales, sell high, and you can always come down. If you sell low and try to go up, it's much harder than selling high and coming down. Sell to the client's budget and desires, not yours. You know, we all fall into this trap. I've done a number of vacations where I said, well, that's absolutely stupid what they want to do. But you got to think it's their money. That's what they want to do. You sell based on what they want to do, not what you think they should do. So many calls, and I've had people say, you know, I called Liberty Travel, and before I could get 2 words out of my mouth, I just said I want to go to an all-inclusive resort. They were starting to list all-inclusive resorts. Well, I didn't want. They did, you know, said they didn't even take the time to understand what it was I really wanted. So basically, go through this step, and if you know, we went through about half the steps before we even started talking about travel. And it's really demonstrating your knowledge, your credibility, and generating that relationship with that particular client. And the last thing on there is ask for the order, ask for the order, ask for the order. If you get to the last step in the sales process and you don't feel comfortable asking for the order, you've done something has not been done correctly in the previous steps. Because asking for the order should just be the next natural step in the process. And with that, I am done with the presentation and ready to take any questions.
Thank you, Geoff. That was absolutely fantastic. So much great information. One of the most typical comments and questions we've been getting so far during this webinar is where can our agents go and find this information again, to go back and reread it. So I want to let everybody know that we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to see the recording both on the Travel Professional Network in the Webinar Archives group and also on Tom Ogg's YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and search for Tom Ogg, this recording will be on there in a few days. Some other questions have come up, and we'll get to as many as we can. Geoff, do you charge any kind of fees when you're working with clients?
We don't, and I'll tell you the reason we don't, because we work strictly in package travel, and we know the product inside and out. Somebody says, well, don't you charge a research fee? Like I said in the presentation, I have not had to do research for I can't remember how many years other than look up the price. So if you know your product, what we do is this qualification process takes place of a lot of reasons why you would charge fees. And, you know, again, with package travel, no. I think with FITs, absolutely. If you're doing FITs or custom travel, you definitely should charge fees. But, you know, I'm still up in the air, and we don't do it. We make a very good living doing this, and we don't charge fees simply because all we sell is package travel.
Okay, fantastic. We're getting several questions about your point that you should get an agreement. You're talking about a verbal agreement over the phone or some sort of written or email agreement? What kind of agreement?
No, a verbal agreement. If you explain something to a client, the way you can get agreement is you can ask them a question like, does that make sense to you? I'm thinking this is what I understood you said. You said this. Is that correct? Asking questions like that, getting verbal agreement while you're going through the qualification process. Or you can say, you can explain something to them and say, do you agree with that? And they may have misunderstood what you said, and they come back, well, I really didn't understand what you said. Could you clarify this point or this point? So that's what I mean as you're going through the qualification process, asking verbal questions.
And can you go over what you think is the best way to ask who is the decision maker so that, you're talking
Sure.
to the right person?
Yep. And what you'll have in sales, what you'll have to kind of preclude that is you're going to have what they call decision influencers and decision makers. The decision influence, I had one the other day where the husband said, go out and find a vacation and bring it back to me, and if I like it and it fits our budget, then we can do it. Well, right then I knew the wife was the decision influencer and the husband was the decision maker. So I always ask, are there going to be any other people involved in making this decision? Is a good way to ask that. It doesn't offend anybody. And, I've had people say, that's a good question. And, yes, there are going to be other people. They're going to be our kids, or they've never thought about it. They have, I really haven't thought about it. Or what you'll get is, well, we're not, you'll get, and this is good information to have, we're not ready to make a decision yet. Okay, now, is that something when, and that leads into the question, when are you going to be ready to make a decision? So it draws out information. It basically, that's the way I would ask it. Are there any other people that are going to be involved? I will caution you with groups too. If you work with a group and they have a group leader that is very much in charge of that group, you're going to be okay. If you work with a group and every person in that group is out looking for something, I will guarantee you about 80% of the time that group will go nowhere. Simply because you have to have a group leader. And if you're working in a group of 20 people, you're not going to get 20 people to all agree if they're all out. They're all going to think, all 20 people are going to think that their solution is the best. And so therefore, what you end up with is you end up 20 people arguing with each other. So that's just a piece of information I think that needs to go out there with groups.
And a couple of people are asking what your recommendation is for the best way to ask somebody what their budget is, particularly if somebody hasn't traveled in a while and really has no idea what travel costs these days.
Okay, and I'll tell you how we do that. I have made up with, and I was trying to figure a way to include it in here, but I didn't, is we have made up with a sheet with people that don't know because they haven't traveled what the budget is. I have made up a sheet that shows the different seasons, the different number of nights, and the approximate rates between this. We do nothing but 3-star and above resorts based on our inspecting the resort. So what I've done is made up a sheet. It says, Christmas season. Here's a typical rate per person rate for Christmas for 7 nights, for 5 nights, and for 3 nights. Here's a rate for spring break or winter time, and I go through the same thing. Here's a rate for summer. Here's a rate for fall. So what I can do is they said, if you have absolutely no clue, I can tell you to get the conversation started. I can tell you that you want to travel at this time. Here's a realistic starting point to look at that it's going to be between $1,300 and $1,800 per person to travel at that time. And that's a good start. It's not an exact price, but a good starting point to get the conversation started. Another point that comes up with that, I've had people that say, I don't know my budget, I just want a deal. And that comes up a lot. I want a deal. I feel like asking them, okay, define a deal for me, because 90% of them can't define a deal. But what we've done, and actually my wife came up with this, is she will tell them, okay, I got a great deal for you. It's $25,000. And they'll say, well, I don't want to spend $25,000. I said, well, why? It's a great deal. It used to be $35,000. So then she'll say, well, I've got another deal then. It's $10,000. Well, I don't want to spend $10,000. Okay, I've got another one that's $5,000. Okay, that sounds reasonable. I can do that. Okay, guess what we've done? We've just established your budget.
You're a smart cookie. That's a great way to do it.
And like I said, we won't, until we establish somebody's budget, we will not work with somebody.
Mm-hmm. We're getting a couple of questions about whether or not your clients ever ask you how you make your money, and if you tell them, and if that affects the sales process at all.
No. I tell them we make a commission from the resort and the airline.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all I tell them. And I have no problem telling them that because they know we have to make money some way.
Mm-hmm.
And, the stuff we sell, the reason I don't charge, our average sale, our average commission is probably 600 to 800 per sale. And we don't have to do any research. I can get a quote out the door after qualifying somebody properly. I can get quotes out the door to somebody in about 15, 20 minutes.
Fantastic. Several agents have been asking if your clients never want to talk on the phone, if they want the whole process over email.
I've heard that, and I've heard it the other way. Is I want to do it by phone. I don't want an email. And we do have a few that say we want to do it by email. I ran into something a couple of weeks ago talking to a real estate agent that she said she's done real estate transactions with this millennia crowd, that she's done it all by texting. She's never talked to the person. She's done it, the whole thing, by texting.
Yeah, that's the way they communicate these days. I've heard that email is obsolete to the millennials.
Yep, my daughter is one of those. I can call her on the phone and she won't answer the phone, but if I text her, she'll get back to me in about 30 seconds.
Got to go where the fish are.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of questions about the qualifying process with those clients who are asking for something that is totally wrong for them. Do you give them what they are asking for, or do you give them what they really will enjoy?
No, because part of it is remember I said using your experience and your knowledge is what I try to do is change their perception to something that is realistic. If I can't do that and they're inflexible, we had somebody the other day that called and they wanted to go on a 7-night vacation to Mexico and they didn't want to spend more than $600 total. Well, first of all, you're probably not going to change that person. And in those cases, if you can't change them or you can't steer them in another direction, we just tell them, I'm sorry, but we're probably not the best person to help you. But if things change and you can increase your budget or this, please call us because we'd love to work with you.
Wonderful. If somebody is a brand new agent, how do you sell yourself?
That's a good question because I'm trying to think. We just hired a brand new agent. She'd never sold travel before. She's a phenomenal person and doing just great. And she also understands social media, so that's another plus. But anyway, what she does, and she says this may sound crass, but she says, I fake it. I fake the confidence. And she uses confidence basically to make up for the lack in product knowledge. You don't really have to sell them the experience and your knowledge. You have to sell them on the fact that you are the best person for them to work with. And if you can do that, you have time to go and do research on what you need to know. But you just need to sell. What you need to really do is focus on selling them on why they should book travel with you. And sell them on the service aspect. But don't just say, I provide good service. Sell them on what it is, what kind of service you're going to provide them. Mm-hmm. And I would say for that, too, is the way I learned products was two ways. First of all, I built our first website, and I had resort information on there. So I went to the resort's website, and I read everything about the resort. That's the first step I did. Second step is I did FAMs. The third step is I stayed at a resort, and you will get a totally different feel for resort on all three of those. But I would recommend doing all three of those. And if you're a new agent and you're going in business for yourself, you've got to have something budgeted to do those types of things, your education. We were in a position where I spent 4 months building our website, and I learned so much about resorts doing that. But it's something you've got to get that knowledge, and it's tough. If you're new, it is tough. But what you got to do is focus on your confidence and sell them on why they should do business with you.
Okay. We all depend on referrals for business. Do you offer any kind of incentive for your clients to send new business to you?
I do. What I do is rather than give them a gift card or something like that for a referral, I'll give them like $25 off their next vacation they book with us. So I always tie it to them booking something with us. They're going to get rewarded when they book something with us. I'm not going to reward them just for giving me a referral. So that's what we tie it to. We tie it to, and I will give something to the person they refer. And what I found is that stimulates them to even give us more. And then now you've developed this person that will go out and get referrals. So we do give them a little something. It's not a lot, but we always tie it to them booking something with us.
And how do you handle it? What's your feeling about clients whom you have qualified? They love what you're offering, but then turn around and either book elsewhere or book on the internet.
Well, and you're going to get that. I don't care how qualified they are, you're going to get that. That's a certain percentage of people are just going to do that. And we look at it, it's a cost of doing business. But if you hone your qualifying skills, what you'll find is those people, you'll narrow that gap. Because part of the problem when you run into people like that is I really feel that you haven't established credibility or a rapport with that particular person. Because if they're going to go book something else, I want it to hurt when they have to make the decision they're going to book with me or somebody else. I want to develop that relationship with that person to the point that it hurts when they make that decision. And that's the best I can hope for. I can't force people to do what they do, but what I do is through qualification and through the other steps, I minimize reasons why somebody, what I do is I tell people, I say, why should I use you? And I said, look, I can understand what you're looking for down in detail. I can provide you the top quality service. I can use my experience and my knowledge to make sure that resort is going to fit what you're looking for. And I can do it for the same price as you can do it yourself. So I turned around and I asked them, now why would you not want to book with me?
I love that. We have time really just for one more question. We have a lot of questions that have come in. So after this question, I will give all of you Geoff's contact information. He has very, very generously offered to give you his contact information so you can email him your questions or even call him. So the last question is, when a new client calls you and you're starting the qualification process, if they let it slip that you're the third or fourth agent they've already called for the same vacation, do you continue with the process or do you fire them?
Depends on the client. And what I found was, we actually kept track of this, is that for a couple of months is that 92% of the people that contacted us were working with somebody else and already had prices.
That's impressive. And then they went with
They won't tell you. They're not all going to tell you that, but that's why I asked that question. So if I eliminated 92% of the people that called me, I probably wouldn't be in business very long. And it was 92% of the people had contacted somebody else, or they looked online and they already had prices. And I just say, okay, what prices do you have? And, I tell them I can't guarantee I can beat it, but I can probably match the price that you have. Unless we had one the other day, it was, and the price they had was from a huge discounter who actually discounted the price $400. And that case, I just told them I book with them because there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah. Well, we are out of time. I want to give everybody your contact information because we still have a lot of questions coming in. If you want to email Geoff, his email address is ultimatetravel2003@yahoo.com. That's ultimate, ULTIMATE, travel 2003 at yahoo.com. Or you can call him at area code 480-893-6584. 480-893-6584. Geoff, this has been absolutely fantastic. We are getting several people asking if you will come back and do this again. So I hope you'll come see us again sometime.
Well, I will. And as we talked before this, I told people that what I wanted to do was put together webinar for each step of the sales process, and then potentially turn that into a document or some type of book that people would have access to.
Well, that would be awesome. So again, our guest speaker today has been Geoff Millar, co-owner of Ultimate All-Inclusive Travel. Geoff, thank you so much. We really appreciate all this amazing information.
No problem. I mean, I feel if we don't help each other in the industry and give back to the industry, we're going to fail to be an industry at some point in time. We all need to look at giving back to the industry and not only helping each other and ourselves, but also helping the industry grow.
Absolutely, I agree. And thank you to all of our travel agents who are in on this webinar today. And I wish you very happy holidays, whichever holidays you celebrate, and a wonderful, healthy, happy, and prosperous new year. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye.